reports, they're saying, yeah, a Stargate-style wormhole opened up over Norway, and people were going, yeah, okay, we can accept that. And so now it seems like, yes, they could be getting ready for the next step. And that's what I'm kind of looking for now is, okay, where might we anticipate that next step? I think that part of the world seems to be a very good candidate for some reason. And what do we do to prepare ourselves for this? Is this something that we need to be concerned about? Or what might we be anticipating is going to happen here? And these are questions I don't have answers for necessarily today, but these are some of the questions that are coming up in my mind that I will be addressing in my research in the coming days.
You're basically talking about the second coming event overall here. So what are the next steps in this process, William? What are some of the signs, so to speak, that you are looking for then?
Well, definitely evidence that the to-do list is being acted on. In other words, looking for evidence that the Ark of the Covenant is somebody, because this is supposed to be a public event. And so looking for signs that maybe someone has new information about the Ark of the Covenant, the rod of righteousness, the anointing oil, all the other basic parts that have to come together here. Let me mention one other item on this to-do list. And by the way, this all comes from Louis Ginsburg's Legends of the Jews, which is kind of it's about a 10-volume set of the Legends of the Jews, and it's considered an authoritative source. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, one of the other things on this list that really didn't make a lot of sense to me when it began back in when I first began researching it back in 1996 was, in addition to getting the Ark and the rod of righteousness, the anointing oil, the manna, and so forth, and revealing the light that shone before the first week of creation, there are two other things that I didn't mention that I think could be signs that we want to be paying attention to. This is the answer to your question. Mm. One of the other things was level the mountains of the Holy Land, grind the mountains of the Holy Land to powder. Mm-hmm. And I'm stumbling on that, thinking, what do you mean grind the mountains of the Holy Land to powder? Is this more having to do with the white powder, grinding the white powder, grind the mountains, looking for the alluvial gold perhaps in the mountains of the Holy Land to produce this manna-like substance, this white powder gold everybody's so excited about? And then 9/11 happened. And I started listening to the news announcements. And now in American mysticism, America is considered the new Atlantis, the new Jerusalem.
From the new Francis Bacon point of view.
Exactly, the new Holy Land.
Yeah.
And on 9/11, two mountains were ground literally to powder. And so the question then becomes, well, how would 9/11, why would destroying the World Trade Center, grinding the buildings of the World Trade Center to powder be on the messianic to-do list? I mean, nobody views that as a positive event. But the answer for me is that just remember what happened a couple of days after 9/11. It seemed as if for one moment the whole world had come together in hope and prayer. And so there was, for a brief moment, a positive aspect of that. And then, of course, the neocons came in and wrecked the whole thing, launched the war on terror, and completely tried to lock down the planet. So you can see there is a battle going on here, and maybe the grinding of the mountains of the Holy Land does have to do with 9/11. Now, the other thing on the list is this messianic figure will raise Korah in his band of followers from the inner earth. That's what Louis Ginsburg says. He will raise Korah and his band of followers from the inner earth. Who's Korah? Well, when you start to look into this, people ask, well, this Korah figure is a person of mystery. Who is it? Well, Korah is Moses' cousin. He's considered like the second wealthiest man alive at that time. And what had happened is that Moses started acting all uppity. After he gets the 10 Commandments from Yahweh, he starts acting all uppity, and Korah gets in his face and says, Moses, we'd like you to knock it off. And by the way, all this, what I'm telling you here is all in the book of Numbers. Korah says to Moses, well, you knock it off. You're acting like a jerk. We just left one Pharaoh. Now you've got these tablets. You're acting like you're, some kind of Pharaoh or something.
Yeah,
Stop it. Right. So Moses says to Korah, fine, we'll let Yahweh settle this. And so what happens is Moses tells Korah, meet me at the tabernacle tomorrow. We'll have Yahweh settle it. Well, Yahweh appears in his usual cloud. And next thing we know, Yahweh opens up a hole in the earth, in the inner earth, according to Ginsburg, and Korah and 250 of his followers are put into it. And according to the Jewish legend of the return of the Messiah, the second coming, the Christian second coming, they're still there. They're awaiting this guy to pull them out of what seems to me some kind of static kind of place, like they're in suspended animation or something. Mm-hmm. And so then the question is, well, who's Korah? I mean, people think Moses is Akhenaten, okay? Mm-hmm. If we're trying to put historical personage on this, there's a theory that Moses is Akhenaten.
Indeed.
But I'm not sure about that, and the reason why is because Korah's name means the rebel. And at that time, the greatest rebel on the planet was Akhenaten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's called the heretic king because he launched this rebellion against the bureaucracy of Egyptian gods. And what I think is that another sign, something else we want to look at is evidence that maybe we find the tomb of Akhenaten, which has been undiscovered. Maybe we start to find evidence that Akhenaten is Korah. And then the next really big thing would be somehow these guys are pulled out of the inner earth. It's a strange sensation. And so when I'm in Egypt, like in the Valley of the Kings, which my sense is that this is the place we're talking about, is that maybe, Korah, Akhenaten, and 250 of his followers are parked maybe in another dimension or something somewhere, awaiting a time when they come full force into the world, and that is a validation of who the Messiah is. One other thing that any Messiah wannabe would have to do, according to Jewish legend, is raise from the dead one known to the Jewish elders. Mm-hmm. So that's a real tricky one. Mm. So if, and this is what is insulting to me, that if you got some political people trying to push a politician as a Messiah, I'm saying, yeah, well, bring it on, because I really want to see what you do with the Ark of the Covenant. And I really want to see how you pull Korah and his band out of the inner earth. And I want to see you resurrect somebody from the dead, because if you're not about doing those things, don't call yourself, or don't even imply that you're a messianic figure, because you're purely a wannabe.
Well, William, what about the, again, we have this interpretation of that all of these things that you mentioned here can be put in a modern context. For instance, when you're talking about awakening someone from the earth or something like this, we could potentially talking about regenerative technology. We could talk about extracting DNA from someone and cloning them or bringing them back to life.
Moses indicated to me, Nostradamus in his quatrains indicated to me that there's some DNA belonging to Moses that's out there somewhere waiting to be found. Mm. So I think you've hit it on the head, that would be one way that you could resurrect these beings, is through some kind of cloning technology. Absolutely.
So the overarching question here that arises as well is basically about the architects of all of these events that are in some way playing this out in our time period. They're on one hand pushing people's religious hot buttons, as you alluded to before. Mm-hmm. Right. But the question is, are they human created, or are we talking about that this is spiritually guided from beyond? Is it true prophecy playing out, or is it human created? What do you think, William?
Well, I think it's so complex that there does seem to be some kind of a higher mind that is operating in these events, or for sure somebody that has the actual playbook or has read the script and has it in front of them and are starting to reveal this. So personally, I think there's a higher mind operating here.